Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT rostermania disguise. Toast has indeed confirmed that he is building a VALORANT roster and they will be formed very soon indeed. Which challenger team is he going to potentially pick up? Could it be Sinatra's squad? And Sinatraa reckons the challenger scene to qualify for the Ascension League is going to be far more difficult than some may well believe. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to mention today. Thought this was pretty funny as well, spotted at the World Cup yesterday. Firstly, this from ShahZaM. We believe, of course, that G2 are going to build the team around ShahZaM and dapr. Was some questions because I think that dapr was potentially saying on stream, and also even Sinatraa maybe mentioned it, as to whether the possibility of a dapr-Sinatraa reunion could well happen, because dapr was, of course, we believe, offered a spot on the bench for the Sentinels team anyway. They decided to bring Sick in, which of course made sense, all things considered, and then dapr had to look for other options. Turns out Sentinels is not going to be that option, it's going to be G2 with ShahZaM that is that option. But whether G2 wanted Sinatraa or, all those questions are a bit of a, question mark as well. Now, ShahZaM is still for Sentinels as it stands. He's still, I believe, under contract for them for the time being. That might be why G2 haven't quite signed it yet, because until the contract is up, I'm pretty sure ShahZaM is going to keep Sentinels in his bio and all this type of stuff as well. But if ShahZaM's team is going to G2, which we think they are, then Toast, of course, mentioned a couple of weeks ago, even saw from Moist Critical, right, that like Moist Esports, he wants to get them involved. But Toast certainly said the following, and we saw this from even Shroud, and it's Timmy, or certainly Shroud said during Champions, they're like, hey, if I field a team for tier 2, I want it to be my own team, right? He basically just said, yeah, I want to build my own roster, whether it's with an organization or not. He wants to kind of build it from the ground up for his own team. So some orgs will want to sign these type of players. Some orgs will say, you know what, let's just wait to see who actually qualifies. And this is the risk for a guy like Toast, because like he wants to get these guys on a contract. Which team is he going to sign? Because many pros were in the replies, hey, dapr and many others were kind of in the replies to Toast at the time when he tweeted this out a few weeks ago. And now, according to him on stream last night, he's very close indeed to signing these players. I think he's probably got a good idea which team he wants to go for, and which team he's going to try and lock in, and therefore contracts are going to get signed relatively soon. The risk is, though, if they actually get signed to Toast's organization or whatever, and then they play the qualifiers for the Ascension League or Challengers League, whatever the terminology is they're describing it as, and then they fail to qualify, then what do you do? Because then your season's over and you're stuck in tier 3.
I'm still working on my VALORANT team. It's a lot of work. I don't have any solid updates, but we are like in talks with people. I think like the next time I give a solid update, it will be when I actually have players under contract. Because like anything before then, it doesn't really matter. So if it ever reaches that point, I'll probably make an announcement.
So these are all the rosters as it stands, excluding for now the team that we're going to see in a second here with Sinatraa and co. And even this Dark Ratio team with Oxy and the guys who were wondering whether Oxy potentially to G2 could be a possibility. But all these teams that are being formed, plus many more of course, how many spots are there actually going to be? This is a big question right now, because the way this works basically, there's the Ascension tournament that happens at the end of this season, where one team from each region qualifies to the Partnership League. But to get into the Ascension tournament, you've got to go through the tier 2 Challenger circuit, and you've probably got to qualify for that, right? Because they can't just allow infinite teams to play in the Challenger circuit. There's going to be a qualifier relatively soon, and if you get through the qualifier, then you can get through into the Challenger circuit, and then if you do well enough there, you can qualify for the Ascension tourney, and then get through to the Partnership League. Now, there are plenty of teams here. We don't yet know how many spots they're going to be in this kind of Challengers League. Maybe 16, maybe 10, maybe 8. Who knows what they're going to do? Because Riot certainly, when they came up with the Franchise League, initially we thought maybe 16 teams, then we thought maybe 12, then it was 10, and then it was like, okay, probably 10 with 7 NA, then it was 10 with 5 NA. So that's why the, honestly, the tier 2 NA scene is way more stacked than you think it maybe should or could be, just because there are plenty of players that missed out on the tier 1 scene down here in tier 2. Like a lot of the players on the guard, Trent & Co, Net, the guard guys, TSM of course, FaZe Clan, plenty of these guys, really talented players, G2, it's some former Sentinels guys, SR of course, former LG, very solid team. Like, these teams are no no slouches down here at all, and it's going to be incredibly competitive in the tier 2 side. So which organization of the ones that aren't yet signed, like, okay, the Sinatraa one is an interesting potential just because Sinatraa is signed to Sen as a content guy, Shanks is signed to FaZe as a content guy. Would Toast really be able to work with those guys to make the contracts work? I'm not so sure. The one that's more appealing to me is potentially the Stewie 2K team, right? Because these guys are free agents, they're not really signed to an organization right now. I guess Zombs' deal is at an end, Wardell's deal is obviously at an end and stuff like this. So I think that's probably the one that I'd be looking at, because at the end of the day, I'm sure Toast wants to have a team with a fair bit of clout, right? Obviously that makes sense, and clearly these guys are looking for a team, right, at some point. So potentially Stewie, Braxwalker, Zombs, and Wardell. The rumor has it that maybe Tex, who was trialing with this team, is now going to go to the guards. We'll see about that, of course, but yeah, that would be an interesting team for Toast to sign. Of course, as I said though, one team that isn't on this list as of yet from Flynn is this team from Prod. Myself, Shanks, Sinatraa, and Emma looking for one for the league qualifiers coming soon. Now, Sinatraa comments on this on stream last night, actually. I'm going to have to cut out some music from the background, so it might be a little bit, you know, the audio quality might be a bit scuffed, but I'll try and do my best to keep it audible at the very least. And they're talking about what's happening in the Ascension League right now, and Shanks is saying that it's going to be a walk in the park. Easy clap, like, they're just going to run through it, no problem at all. But Sinatraa is respecting the competition here. He's like, look, it's no slouches here in tier 2. These are guys that have missed out on the tier 1 scene. They're fighting for their lives to get back in. And also, if you qualify through these qualifiers, these are the first players to be considered to get picked up by the Pro League. If the pro teams fail to deliver, they are going to immediately go down there to tier 2 and pick up players that arguably should have been in tier 1 in the first place. So it's definitely where you want to be, and it's not going to be easy to get there. Sinatraa reckons, yeah, the competition is going to be high. They might just get smoked by everyone they play, right? He doesn't really reckon their team has that much chance unless they bring in a really solid 5th player.
It's going to be mad easy, bro. You actually down to play next week? It's going to be like mad easy, bro.
It's not going to be easy. Bro, what? You're just going to lose. It's obvious.
What, bro? We're going to play against some random ass tier 2 teams, bro. Or maybe like tier 4 teams.
People who didn't make the league, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, that guy's unbeaten. If we play against that guy, we're playing a lot.
Who?
Net. Guard net. That guy's insane,
We'll
bro.
play
Craziest
like
IGL of all
that.
time.
It's going to be all those types of people.
So even there, they were joking around about the fact that, okay, could Marv come through? Could he help them out a little bit here, right, and deliver the goods? So, as I say, I'm not sure these guys are going to get signed just because the organization stuff doesn't make that much sense for now. Okay, they've got FaZe, they've got, you know, Sentinels, what's going to happen there? A bit of a confusing one. But if they do qualify through these qualifiers, whenever the qualifiers are, still don't believe we've got a date or anything in mind as to when these actually begin, then questions will be raised. But yeah, which team is Toast going to sign? Definitely intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comment section below. And interesting to hear Sinatra's taking it very serious, right? He's not resting on his laurels and saying, yeah, this is going to be a walk in the park. Like, he knows it's going to be difficult, and they're going to have to seriously put in the work here if they want to succeed, and wants to make sure that Shanks can do that, and also make sure they've got a solid 5th player on board as well to help deliver those goods. And as I say, there was some questions at a time whether dapr and Sinatraa could team up and what that would look like, just because, you know, there is a 5th spot needed on that G2 team. We don't know who the 5th spot's going to be. We've, of course, seen that, well, ShahZaM said on stream the other day, you'll never guess who the 5th man's going to be. And of course, people were saying, you know what, why not Sinatraa joining? But it now seems like that's probably not going to be the case. So yeah, I guess just one to stay tuned for. Now, a few things to mention before we close out the video. This was an interesting one from the 100 Thieves side. Of course, they lost Sean Gares this offseason, right? He's decided to step into content, kind of step away from, especially, you know, with his family and kids and all this, like, you know, all the stresses and the trials and tribulations of coaching was probably a bit too much for him. Now, we know that the Sean Gares timeout was kind of like a key point this past season, when after Sean Gares did a timeout, the team would almost always just win the next round. Pretty impressive stuff, right? That apparently the win percentage after a timeout for an average team is only 40%, which I guess makes sense, because often maybe the team is going to do a timeout before they're taking a, you know, let's say they just got broken and they need to figure out, okay, are we going to save, are we going to buy, like, and the coach steps in to give them the call. They're probably in a situation where they're more likely from a money perspective to lose the next round. Whereas when Sean Gares gives his timeout, either he does this to a certain degree, or there's an element of just like what he tells the team is just ungodly, right? Struck me as such a good coach for this team and worked so well with the players. I was pretty shocked he wanted to step away, to be honest, and it could be a big loss for that team, right? Because, you know, they need that figure, right, behind the scenes, and I thought Sean Gares was a perfect guy to bring those younger characters together. Yes, they've still got a good coaching staff. They've got Mike's there now as well. They're bringing on some additional help, but yeah, without Sean Gares, how are they going to fare there next season, I'm not sure it's going to be quite so easy for them, especially without the Shortgears timeout in effect. And just to finish out this video with a bit of a debate here from Fluorescent. So she's a Misfits Black player, I think is the name of their team for the GenG side. And there was some debate about this. If you're a pro player and this game isn't 100% of your life every day, you are going to get replaced. Hard work beats talent. When you do get replaced, you have nobody to blame but yourself. So keep grinding because your competition will not stop. Interesting take, right? Because obviously, look, Fluorescent, she's only 16. She probably isn't like the absolute oracle of knowledge about, you know, how to succeed in competitive play. And she does also admit here that, you know, being efficient and maintaining and looking after your health is good, because there's been some talk about that from even Android, I believe, commented on this and said, you know what, like, look, he sacrificed everything to pursue his dream. He made it, but dealing with these stresses, living in isolation, being in his head 24/7 was unfulfilling because he didn't have the balance right. And that is, I think, the key here. The balance is key. And Ethan comments on this as well, saying that, you know what, it's not really about the time investment. As he says, most kids playing Valorant right now think 12 pugs a day equals working hard. That's not the case. You can get extremely far in Valorant with talent and minimal effort if you know what you're doing, if you put in more efficient time. This is kind of a key thing to me that I see in other esports as well that needs to be developed more. It's not just the time you put in, it's how you're using that time. If your team is concentrated in practice, and when you're practicing, you're focused 100% on how to improve and executing certain setups, not just getting bad habits playing ranked, then that is going to make a big difference in your actual play. Focusing on good habits versus bad. So I think there's really this thing nowadays of, you know, it's all about the grind, just keep grinding, get on every day, play 16 hours a day, go to sleep for like 6 hours, have some food, like get back on the grind. Like that's not really the way to actually succeed in the long term. You will always make it further than your peers if you focus on improving yourself in all the right aspects rather than dumping all your hours into rank. So an interesting debate on this. Definitely intrigued to your thoughts on all that stuff in the comment section below. But hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.